So when I got in trouble, I would have to stay up on my knees for hours on end while my nose was touching the wall, which means you had to sit up. And we would do this for hours when I would get in trouble. So it wasn't like 10 minutes. It was like an hour, 2 hours.
That's
and that
up.
It was torture.
ROTN, let me present to you the ROTN Podcast. The ROTN Podcast.
How do you want me to say it?
Rotten.
Hello, guys. Welcome to episode 7 of the ROTN Podcast.
Here we are.
I know. I think you're missing a line.
What's the line?
What is freaking up, you guys?
What is freaking up, you guys?
We are going to start making Matt say it with me as well.
I can't believe how cute Zoe looks right now sitting on your
Oh my
lap.
gosh, for everyone listening to audio, we have a new member joining us today. It's Zoe.
I actually need to stop and take a picture really quick because it's so funny.
You know what's really funny? Last episode, people were saying in the comments, I watched the podcast, but I stayed for Shark.
No way.
Yeah. People were like, I stayed for Shark.
That's amazing.
So hopefully people are staying to just see Zoe sitting on my lap right now. She is wearing this new outfit I just got her. It is, I want like a Sherpa coat. I don't know. She walked underneath the Christmas tree with it. So now all the fluff from our Christmas tree is all over her coat. But
It's
she
so funny to
loves
me.
it.
Is that like a LA thing to do?
What? Dressing up their dog?
Yeah. I've
You
never
live
seen.
in Chicago. You don't put coats on your dogs?
No,
Well,
never.
Dogs probably froze to death outside.
No, they have fur. They get used to it.
No. I don't think it's just a LA thing, but it happens a lot in LA.
I think it is pretty like, it is a Southern California
You
kind
can't
of thing.
even say it's something I do. This is the first time she's worn an outfit in like 2 years.
Yeah, but you've always put jackets and stuff on her in the past.
When it's cold out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it's hilarious.
Cute. We're filming this before Matt's family comes into town.
Yeah, so there is a huge winter storm that's happening in Chicago. And I guess United contacted my mom and they're canceling tons of flights. And I just remember growing up in Chicago and having moments where it's a winter vortex and it is negative 15 degrees, crazy wind chill, and it hurts outside.
I just remember being a kid, always being so jealous of people who lived in snow because of snow days. Like those days where you get to skip school because the blizzards are so bad or the winter snow is so high. I was so jealous. And also growing up, being a California kid, I never experienced that. So to me, it's so fascinating hearing about snow and snow days and skipping school just because it snowed a little too much. Like we would get 115-degree weather. But that didn't mean we got to like skip school that day.
Well, the reason that you skip school is because it's not safe and they can't get the buses.
It is not safe to have a child outside at 115-degree weather.
No, I know that, but the buses can still operate at 115 degrees, so they could drive the kids to the school and hopefully there's air conditioning. But yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, I had a lot of friends that would actually pass out and faint during hot days.
I can see that. Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, because kids just don't, they don't hydrate themselves very well. And then when it's 110 degrees and you still have freaking PE, it's like, why are we here today? Everyone's sweating. You can't even wear, you know what was the stupidest rule growing up? Dress codes. As a male, I feel like you just don't care. But as a female, when it's 110 degrees and you can't wear a stupid little tank top.
Did you have a dress code?
Yeah.
No
I
way.
had the stupidest dress code. Not only was it dress code like based on like how short your skirts were, but what I didn't get was the colors. We couldn't wear red.
Was that gang related?
Yes.
Was it? Oh,
We
okay.
weren't allowed to wear red or blue. You could wear blue jeans and like certain types of blue, but like just a blue t-shirt, like a plain blue tee, meant you were representing one part of the gang, and then you could not wear red at all. Like red jeans, red anything. Like it was weird. I definitely did grow up in like a city where like, you know, gangs definitely ran around, but nothing like too crazy, but it was just stupid. I just found it so dumb.
Yeah, it's funny how we grew up in such different ways, because I do want to touch on the snow
Dress
day
codes?
thing. No, the snow day thing really quick, because I will say that snow days are exactly what they're advertised as. They are incredibly epic. When you get that call and you wake up in the morning, we would wake up in the morning and you turn on the channel, you turn on the news. That's how it was when I was like growing up before high school, and then you'd get emails. You turn on the news. You would see the districts in the schools shut down, so you'd wait and you'd watch. And I have to say that with that, the worst feeling was when it was snowing and you're like excited for a snow day and then no snow day. And then you have to go in school. And sometimes they would let you go home early because, again, it all has to do with the buses.
Yeah.
So if they know that there's a lot of snow and they can't get people in, there has been times where they've had to like let people go. But it is that experience
Has there
where
been a day where you've actually been stuck inside the school because the buses wouldn't work?
no,
Okay.
but when you asked me about one of my favorite memories, so one of my best friends, Tatis, in 2011, we were both home going to community school. There was a huge snowstorm in Chicago.
Community school or community college?
Community college. And his sister is also my sister's age, and they were really good friends. And so they were both over. And then this storm hit, and his parents never let him sleep out and do that. They were pretty strict about that for whatever reason. But they would buy him handles of alcohol when he was 15.
Oh my God.
They're European. He's Lithuanian. So they
Yes.
have a different cultural upbringing.
Yeah, they start drinking at like 13 years old.
Yeah. And he had his license before he really had
In
it.
Russia, like, don't drink
Yeah.
water, you drink vodka.
No, it's so true. But anyways, the snowstorm was so bad that they ended up having to sleep over, and they couldn't even get into their street until 2:00 the next day, because I'm not even kidding. There was snow that was as tall as the car
Yeah.
pretty much is. And so there was no way
What do
that
you do in that situation?
you're just pretty much stuck.
Does it melt that fast though? Does it
No.
take a day to melt? Or
It doesn't melt. They just have to
You have to-
snowplow it and ice it or
What?
salt it. Yeah. So that was a big chore for me growing up. I always had to shovel the driveway. My dad would text me to be like, the driveway needs to be cleaned by the time I get home or whatever. Or the next day he's like, hey, make sure the driveway's done.
did Andrew have to do that as well, or was it just you?
I don't know. I don't think so. I know that I had to, and I know
Yeah.
he would help out. But maybe in those years where I was out of the house and he was still home, he had to.
What
But
about the girls?
no, they didn't have to. I mean, my dad made me do some chores. I had
Yeah.
to clean like the roof. I had to, which was actually pretty sketchy, getting on the roof and blowing the leaves off. It was always a little sketchy, but my dad, he made me clean the garage, do the roof, all
You never
this
do
stuff.
the roof here.
There's no
Gutter.
there's no gutter here on our roof. It doesn't catch anything, so there's nothing to clean. Yeah. I'll never forget Tatis and I, if anyone has seen, I think it's Pineapple Express, when they do that like cross joint where it's like a joint that's pretty much like two
Yes, I've
connected.
seen it. Yes.
We did that on a snow day, and I wish I had my old phone.
Do you have
I'm
photos?
jealous. I don't. I'm jealous of the kids growing up today because of all the cloud storage and iPhones. It's very normal. You have everything documented, but there are so many things that I wish I had saved
Yeah.
from my high school
If you
experience.
wanted to save anything for those of you guys who were born, in the 2000s, we make ourselves sound so old, but we had to like use freaking Polaroids or,
Yeah.
one-time use cameras, single-use cameras. And I love that single-use cameras are coming back and film cameras are coming back. That aesthetic is just, to me, so nostalgic and so much better than just normal phone photos. But yes, very, very jealous of all the kids nowadays who can document their third birthday, fourth birthday on their phones and throw it into the cloud and like have that for forever and ever. And maybe, you know what, in 20 years things will change where it's like, you use the cloud, now I'm using like this microchip in my finger or whatever
In my
it
head.
is. Yeah.
Elon Musk's chip. But then there also is that interesting part where growing up around the age that we did,
Yeah.
we had such an interesting experience with the rollout and birth of social media. I mean, I remember having a BlackBerry, and that was the first phone really that had internet on it. And mind you, the internet was so bad, but you could do like email, you could do other stuff. But every year it was, what are the new phones that came out?
Yeah.
And there was some new feature, whether it was the sliding keyboard, Verizon had, some new feature. And it was always such an experience getting a new phone.
Yeah.
That excitement technology was legitimately progressing right in front of our eyes.
Do you think Gen Zs or millennials have better childhoods? Because if you think about it, like when we were growing up, we had access to privacy, right? And we didn't have our parents watching us 24/7 or being able to reach us 24/7. Like I remember, you'd have to ask for permission to go outside. And then when you went outside, you had no phones. You didn't have anyone tracking you. And your only requirement was come home before the lights turn on. The street lights. But nowadays, I feel like just kids don't have that ability to just play outside with their neighborhood friends until like 8 p.m. without having their like parents track them, or they don't even play outside anymore, I feel like. Or maybe I'm just jaded.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you make a good point, and I will say that I think each generation probably feels that they have it the best.
Mm-hmm.
Gen Z looks at millennials and they go, you guys are so old, your Boy Meets World and, whatever.
Yeah.
But I will say that I do think that we are an interesting generation where we were in between, because I remember being in 6th grade, again, no phone. It wasn't very normal. Now I feel like the standard is so much lower where you're constantly in communication and reachable, but you just weren't back then.
Yeah.
I do really think that we grew up in such a great time, because I have so many vivid memories running around the neighborhood with the kids, becoming really good friends with my neighbor, just being creative, doing stuff outside. And then even throughout the process, like AIM was such an interesting, MySpace and in AIM was so
AOL,
interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and
you remember the away messages too?
Yeah, you had to get creative and do stuff. And that was really what felt that it was starting the social media, set up your profile, have a presence, your top 8. I think about this all the time, actually. When I look at Gen Z, I admire how, in a sense, fearless they are. A little too much. But I also admire how expressive they are.
And they also really stand up for what they believe in as well. I feel like for millennials, we've been told kind of just shut up and just like go with the flow, just because we grew up in the financial crisis and we kind of just had to like abide by all the rules, right? After everything happened. And with like Gen Z, they're just like, the rules, I'm doing whatever I want, and we'll figure out what the consequences are afterwards. They are the definition of it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I don't take it that way. I feel that there's so much sensitivity and
really?
Where they're afraid to cross the line. You know, there's a lot of pressure on what to say, what tribe to associate yourself with. And we see so much of that, people standing up for things that maybe they don't even fully believe in, but they feel they have to make a stance.
No, I think maybe in the terms of people's feelings, but when it comes to like doing things against like company culture or like where they're working, or they're like just quitting on the spot and they don't care about the consequences as much.
Yeah, no, maybe I agree with that, because I think, and where I was going with it also is, well, one, I think it's interesting when I look at Gen Z and the way that they are expressive and artistic. I like am jealous and envious of that, because I always have been that way in some way or another growing up, whether it be expressing myself with like metal music or hippie culture,
and feeling judged for it,
and feeling so judged for it. But I think that that's what I loved about it, because I always loved being different. I never liked being what everyone else was, and would always look down on that. And you know, thinking about my high school experience, the cool kids were the ones wearing, you know, polos and Abercrombie, and they all looked so cookie cutter. And then the kids who were getting tattoos or wearing earrings or doing interesting stuff with their hair, they were the weird odd kids. Now I feel it's kind of the inverse. When you look at the popular kids from Gen Z, and maybe it's just from TikTok culture and whatever, they got tattoos, they have weird dangling earrings, you know, they're very expressive. And I love that. I love self-expression so much. And I envy that.
But no, I do agree that Gen Z has been able to find their niche, because now with social media being so present, if they feel like they're the weird kid, all they have to do is post about it, and they find their tribe. They find that gang that they agree with and kind of, you know, represent, right? So nowadays, no one feels unique or special anymore, because now they can find people who also feel unique and special the way they feel unique and special. But like us growing up, we couldn't really get outside the box without feeling like we were loners or weird.
I remember the start of that sort of online, find your identity, find your tribe, find people. Like I had relationships online. I had friends online. There was chat rooms, but they were so new. Now you could do stuff on TikTok and social media and find other people that share that interest. And that's, to me, what's so interesting, where you had to actually see those people in person to feel like you were a tribe. And so my friends were always the people that expressed themselves in the same way, whether it be metal, you know, music and that whole like emo goth era, which I went through, or, you know, being more in the hippie culture and whatever. But I think what's so interesting about Gen Z is that there's so much more information that they've been privy to. They know that there is an outlet for them. Like you're saying, you know, quit my job. You know how many videos they've probably already seen? Quit your job, focus on what you love. Here's all these resources for you. When we were growing up, we never had any of those tools. It wasn't until really the early 2010s where that sort of entrepreneurial mindset and mentality became so popular. And even then, it wasn't popular. It was starting to emerge.
Yeah.
But now you can find a video on everything. I'm seeing music producers that are 12 years old, and all you have to do is watch a few videos and you get so much information. There's so many people that encourage that.
Yeah.
But on the other side, what I think is where I'm not jealous of Gen Z I look at it as a whole and I really feel bad because I can't imagine how difficult, and maybe this is just my perspective, I hope that I'm wrong, but I could see how difficult it would be to grow up in Gen Z culture where your social identity and your social following is really almost like your self-worth. And that creates such an interesting pressure because, you know, like we're saying, the cool kids are probably the kids with the followings.
Yeah.
And so now you have all these people that are doing things for attention, doing things to be cool in a different way where they can get seen by the world. And imagine trying that and failing and feeling like no one likes you because of that. Like that is why also the suicide rate has increased a lot.
I heard that it is increased by 40% in the last 2 decades.
Wow.
And I think there is a feeling of Gen Z, the way they talk about suicide. It feels very empty. Like they just joke about it in a way that seems funny at first, and now it just feels really unhealthy, where people will be like, I don't even want to even be alive today. Like, I don't want to live till 100. And I find myself joking in that way as well. Of course, never being serious, but I'm like, whoa, like, I think some people genuinely feel that way. And you can kind of feel that, like, Gen Z as a whole kind of feels empty because they're living in this world where everything is on social media. Nothing is physical anymore. Everything is digital.
Yeah.
I don't like to say that maybe I grew up better than Gen Z, but I genuinely loved my childhood. Granted, I did have very hard upbringings as well, where, you know, like growing up back in the day, like, you know, spanking your kids or, you know, like kind of like, I don't even know how to say that.
Just being physical.
Just being physical and, you know, detrimental to your kids' mental health was like not something you talked about and was like fine and overlooked. And now I feel like the people who are raising Gen Z, they are very able to like help their mental health and not be physical with them. So there are aspects that they have it much better, right? Because now spanking your kid is very looked down upon. You would never do that. But I remember growing up, it was so normalized for us.
Not that I want to spank my kid,
Yes.
but my dad was physical, you know?
So were my parents, yeah.
Yeah, my dad was physical. I've gotten into it with him. You know, he was very hands-on.
I think mine was less hands-on, like getting like slapped or shoved and stuff like that, but it was more like torturous, which I think is interesting because I feel like it's like, I think I've told you once and you're like, what the actual what? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Where you had to like stand against the wall?
Not even. So when I got in trouble, I would have to actually kneel down on, you know, hardwood floors. And if you've ever done that for periods of time, you know, girls, gluck, gluck, 3000s, you know, it's not fun. What?
You just say gluck gluck 3000.
Do you know what that reference is?
Yeah, but I don't even think you said it right.
What is it?
I'm trying to remember. You just said it so funny that
Gluck,
it's
gluck,
throwing me off.
3000. Either way.
Wow.
Gluck, glucks, whatever. You know, it's not fun staying on your knees. But it wasn't even staying on my knees and getting to sit on my actual like heels. I had to stay up on my knees for hours on end while my nose was touching the wall, which means you had to sit up. And we would do this for hours when I would get in trouble. So it wasn't like 10 minutes. It was like an hour, 2 hours.
That's
and that
up.
It was torture. And just like having your eyes not focus on anything because everything is like literally like right here. And of course we would cheat when they would like leave the room for like 10.
So who was making you do this?
My grandma, my uncle. Never my mom or dad, actually, which was really funny. But as you know, I talked about it in my, I think in the first or second episode, how my grandma and my uncle pretty much raised me while my mom and dad were both in New York my parents got divorced when we were in New York, but my mom still stayed in New York and just took me back home to live with my grandma.
That's so interesting. Like torture.
Yes. So that's why I'm saying I think Gen Z has it a little bit better where like no one batted an eye back then if that's what you did to your kids. But nowadays, if you did that
it's like the classic, you know, saying it's like all these people online, they've clearly never been like punched in the face. You know, it's like they don't feel that there will be a physical consequence for their actions so that they push the limits a little bit further.
I mean, even in the things they say online, like I would never ever say anything mean to anybody online. That's just not how I was raised. But now they have no repercussions for saying the shit that they do.
Yeah.
So they just say shit that they don't mean. And sometimes they'll walk back on it, but they'll just say things that are
I think that that's also natural as well because you're not going to have as much empathy for someone if you're not with them, you know, and especially through a phone, you're not thinking that these words will actually hurt them.
Yeah.
You're just saying whatever you're saying to make yourself feel good. It's the same reason why most of the time people talk shit about people behind their backs because they don't have to face the consequences of hearing what they have to say. But it's like you would never say that to them.
I agree.
Yeah, it's interesting. Gen Z. I want to hear from some Gen Z people.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about our parents, even in the way they grew up, they had no phones. So really, they just lived their lives.
I mean, the 70s seemed lit. Like
and
my
they
parents
were working at like 10 years old, though. That was the difference.
If there was a time I would go back to, it would be like the 70s.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that when Ted Bundy was a thing and all those serial killers were happening? It's much harder to be a serial killer nowadays than it is in the 70s.
I mean, the last thing I'm worried about, if I could be born in any era, would be serial killers. But
really?
Yeah, it's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the high school experience, the freedom, the lightness of life. I don't think that, if you were going to high school in the 70s, or even in the 80s, there was this immense pressure from your community, from your parents, from the guidance counselor about where are you going to school? What are you going to be? Those questions have been instilled in us for so long. They're literally...
I don't think Gen Z experiences that anymore because nowadays the talks are like, you don't even need to go to college anymore. So it definitely was in our generation and our parents who passed that upon us.
Aside from the educational pressure, the societal pressure now about who you're going to be and what you're going to be is even larger. If you're Gen Z, maybe you don't feel the pressure to go to school, but you feel the immense pressure to be something because you're constantly seeing people talk about their lives and have this access to information that it's probably so intense.
I actually do genuinely think social media has been so detrimental to Gen Z because now they're seeing TikTok stars and influencers and YouTubers buy houses at 18 where they're turning 18. They're like, I feel behind. How is this person buying a house? And I even felt that way when I was on social media, when my friend Vivian, who was 18 and I was 23 at the time, she bought a house and I was like, shit, like I need to look into houses. Like that's so smart of her. Like, wow, she's doing great things. I feel so behind. And now that pressure has 10x where even nowadays 16-year-olds and like the girl, the Catch Me Outside girl bought like a $10 million house in freaking Miami, Florida or Orlando, Florida. And it's crazy to see like how much everything has been fast tracked. And even nowadays, how 16-year-olds look like they're 25 now. Like I remember being 16 and my only access to education on makeup and looking better or sexier would be Cosmopolitan
wow, I never thought about that.
and 17 magazine. But nowadays it's like, nowadays 16-year-olds look like they're my age and I feel like I look younger than them sometimes.
That's crazy because I never realized why that would matter, but that makes so much sense. Like young girls have access to makeup tutorials and little hacks and tricks to make them look older. So that's wild. I never thought about that.
That's why they look old.
I think it's normal that most people feel pressure for their future. I don't think there's any way to avoid that. So in any generation, there is that pressure. And going back to why, I want to grow up in the 70s, it felt like maybe there didn't feel this huge pressure to be something. It's like, we got this sales job and we're selling stocks and we just made millions of dollars and that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't think people looked at each other from this societal hierarchy class so intensely. It was more of just like raise a family, find a wife. You got to do the first. You got to find the wife first, hopefully, then raise the family,
then buy a house.
And so that's why I wish that I grew up maybe in that era.
I agree with that statement. I think living in the 70s minus the freaking Ted Bundys of the world would stop it. It's, you know what? It's because you're a guy. Girls have to think about their safety.
Okay, but think about what people would go back and say about mass shootings. Think about the mass shootings, which are way more common and dangerous than a random serial killer. The percentage of that happen to you is incredibly low.
Well, so is a mass shooting, but it's just been, so highly publicized that it feels a lot more, common than it's still too common than it ever should be. But it's probably like the chances are probably the same as like you getting raped or murdered, in the 70s.
But I'm saying I'm assuming the fatality rate is way higher from mass shootings than these serial killers that in 10 years they've killed 15 people, whereas someone could kill 15 people going up to a parade and shooting.
Yeah,
that's so
crazy. But I will say the one benefit of living in the 70s was homes were $6,000.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I know. And there were safety nets. You knew that if you put your money into your 401k, if you put money into your Social Security, you would have money when you're 65. Nowadays, they're talking about getting rid of the age requirement of Social Security because right now, the U.S. government can't even pay Social Security benefits correctly to the people that put it in the 90s and 2000s. So it's like we just put in all this money working to not even have that fallback now. So we don't have a safety net. And now homes are $1 million in California versus $16,000. You know what? We had our engagement party and one of the rental guys, the party rentals, he was the guy unpacking all the tables. He was like, I actually grew up in this neighborhood. My aunt and uncle live here and they have a mansion here. They have a 10,000 square foot house.
Wow.
6 bedrooms. He was like, I grew up with them. They've had it for 30 years. I still haven't seen parts of their house because it's just that massive. And I was like, how much did they pay for it? And he was like $32,000. And I was like, man. And you know what? You can 10X it and say, look, rate of inflation, $32,000, 30 years ago is probably $320,000 now. Still a huge steal. That is insane.
Yeah. And that's what I've noticed in this area too. You can see the families that they've been here for a while. There's so much culture in our area, which I love that. And you could see the people sticking around, and good for them to be able to invest in real estate. And then now it's 20X, 30X.
Not even.
But if you were going to grow up in any era, what would it be?
That's actually a great question. I would love to be a male, a white male.
I wasn't asking that. But good to know.
I would love to be, because they have it the easiest. Let's be honest here in the U.S.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, what do you mean?
I know, obviously.
There's war, so then they had to be, I'm glad that, what is it called?
Drafting or whatever?
Drafting is not a thing anymore.
I think it is a thing.
Not in the U.S.
Oh, is it not? I guess it depends the state of the war.
Oh, actually, you're right. I actually genuinely don't know what era I would like to be in.
Okay, that's fair.
It's too hard. Would you still want to be in the 70s? You could be in any era.
100%. I just love the culture. I love rock and roll. I love the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
I love so much of the music.
Yeah.
And the lightness it felt like from the outside. This is post Vietnam War, and you go through this whole peaceful.
No, Vietnam War was in 1975.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
Only because I'm Vietnamese, so of course I know what year it ended.
Okay, yeah. No, sorry. That's where I was going with it. Vietnam War was happening in the...
You said Vietnam.
No, I said, okay. Vietnam War was happening in the 70s. You're right. And that's why there was such a peaceful hippie culture movement because of all the people that were protesting the war.
Yeah.
And so that birthed an entire culture of music, arts, people being super progressive. There was so much that moved forward in that time because of that situation. I love that culture. Like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Grateful Dead, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. Like, I love that stuff.
I would love to have all the knowledge I have today, but be alive in the 1920s. You know why? So then I can just put in all the stocks, like bet on all the horses that I need to and just live a rich ass life in the 1920s during the Great Gatsby era. I will say there's one era that I'm like really fascinated by would be like the Great Gatsby Roaring 20s era. But I don't know too much about like the actual struggles of that lifetime because I think that's when they had prohibition, which is why the Roaring 20s was a massive thing, was like people just illegally drinking alcohol.
Crazy. And I will say too, I think it's interesting to fantasize if you could grow up in a different era, but I do love the era that I grew up in. And I think most people, like I'm saying, they do. And I think back to the conversation about feeling the pressure to be something.
Yes.
I think everyone feels that way. And I feel that way all the time about my music and where I'm at. And, even being in a relationship with you where you're so much further ahead financially in your career and stuff like that. And I think it always comes back to just being grateful.
Yeah.
Having gratitude for what you have and being able to compare your life to 99% of the world.
Yeah.
We have water on tap in any temperature you want it. We have it very, very good where at the end of the day, those core things are met. And it always comes down to the opportunity as well. It's so easy to compare myself to someone else who's pursuing music or in a certain place or, starting businesses or being 30 But you just got to believe in yourself and be grateful for what you have and know that your time's coming. It's okay if you're not where you need to be now, but that's the game.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you get there, that's the joy of life, because imagine getting everything you wanted. Then what do? I read this incredibly fascinating deep dive article, maybe 10 years about Michael Jordan. And, you know, he lived his ultimate peak when he was in his 20s, maybe early 30s, and having that high, like the highest level of competitive spirit, and then have those achievements. And then after that, what do? He's twiddling his fingers. He's trying to find any way to feel that competitive flair, but he's already peaked in life of his accomplishments. Now, what do? You spend the rest of your life trying to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said about enjoying the journey and knowing that you don't actually want to get to what you want. It's just the idea that keeps you going. And then once you get there, you become so grateful. And the things that take time to get, you experience so much more gratitude for.
No, I'm really glad you said that, because actually one of my New Year's resolutions for 2023, which we should get into, is gratitude. I feel like I have been really unappreciative of a lot of things in my life just because I've been chasing bigger and better and not taking the time to realize I already have things big and better. I would take my life over anyone else's. I'm so happy with the life that I have, but I still find myself being unhappy in small little ways of being like, okay, how much more money can I make? How much bigger can I get? How much this? How much that? Right? And so I want to know what your New Year's resolutions are for 2023.
I've gone back and forth about how I feel about New Year's resolutions, because I think they're kind of bullshit. I think a lot of people want to make these drastic changes, or I'm going to lose 10 pounds and do this. Then start now. If there's something you really want, you should already be focusing on it and chasing it. You know, I kind of have that mentality sometimes. And then other times I'm like, no, I'm going to focus and and make a super like solid plan and set goals. And I've also experienced that where I love to put really high goals out there and try to achieve them, whether it be hitting 100 million streams and then trying to hit that goal and falling short. But even if I fall short, I could fall in an amazing place. So I do believe in setting high goals for yourself and pushing yourself. But I'm honestly really excited to take a step back, you know, now that the holidays are approaching and things are slowing down a little bit and there's more downtime, to really dive in and look inward and figure out how I want to allocate my attention and my time. Because I think the past few months it's been
all NFT
all
stuff.
NFT, all getting the podcast going.
Yeah.
Working on so many other things. And I haven't had as much time for my music at all. But that's the one thing that gives me fulfillment at the end of the day. I was having a conversation with Jeremy. He called me the other week, and, you know, he's asking about all these different pieces and the things that I'm working on, and how they tie together, and sort of just my plan. Like, he was just asking me good questions about like my priority stack. And
where was I on the priority list?
It was more career. It wasn't like, you know, the things in your life. It was, hey, you have the podcast. Hey, you have the NFT project. Hey, you have this music thing. Hey, you have these other skills. You've been spending so much time in all these areas. How do you maximize all of those things together and utilize this ecosystem that you've built to 10x everything, rather than, you know, maybe the NFT project. Yeah. And he asked me like, okay, what is like the one thing that if you do during the day, you'll feel good about? So going back to the goals in my New Year's resolutions, it's to really figure out how to maximize all of these skills that I've developed, and to be incredibly intentional with my time.
I think everyone needs a friend like Jeremy. I love that you and Jeremy talk about like bigger picture goals instead of just like gossiping about like what's happening in news.
Oh, we talk shit too, but no.
I was like, wow, that sounds like such a mature friendship. I'm like, I still just talk about, you know, celebrity news with my friends, and of course like things about like relationships and whatnot. But I think, like you, I definitely agree that New Year's resolutions feel lazy, but I think it's still so fun just to like talk about it and think about it. I definitely think, you know, everyone needs a clean slate, whether it be like, oh, that's a new month or a new week, right? Or it's the next day. Like, I think it just takes people to feel like refreshed, and it's a new beginning for people to,
I agree with that.
Last week we filmed the episode of the podcast, and we were filming 10 minutes into it, and we're like, I think we should just start over. And we turned off all the cameras instead of just restarting and refreshing. Like, I think it's just necessary to like have like a refresh, even if it's like super unnecessary or unimportant, but like you just need that like clean slate, be it a new year for some people or a new week or a new month. And so for me, I think other like New Year's resolutions that I have this year is really focusing on exactly like you, focusing on the work I really love and enjoy. And for me, the podcast is something that I really, really enjoy. And I feel like I want to put in even more time and effort coming up with fun segments and doing fun advice and then like, you know, really, really having these like amazing guests on board. And
I love the podcast.
I love the podcast.
It's so fun.
It's
and
still
I feel
a lot of work, but it's so fun.
Yeah. And I think that there's a way that we can come together and figure out how to optimize that
Our
whole
time.
part of it, which I definitely want to work on. But I think we've done such a great job just being able to sit down, you and I, and not rely on guests. Yeah, no, I love the podcast. But what else are you love to hear?
Every single year, or at least my management and my entire team try to do this, where we all get together and talk about my goals for the next year. And they were just telling me that I needed to focus my time and energy more on putting out content. Because I will say, between the NFT project, the podcast, our relationship, our engagement, the new dog, I have not put out as much content as I have in the past. I think this is by far the worst year I've done content-wise, putting out content. And so I think for this next year, not because I heavily rely on putting out content to make money, I genuinely love being creative and doing fun photo shoots and doing fun stuff and like actually putting out content and using that creative side of my brain, because I do have two sides to myself, the very intellectual business mindset, but also that creative side that I feel like over the past 4 months I haven't really been able to like fine tune and utilize, just because everything with the NFT has been all like business and marketing and like doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I want to focus more on like being in my relaxed era, you know,
Relax girl era.
my relaxed girl era. I'm excited to get refocus on, you know, my career. I
think there's a lot of stuff we've done that
is career oriented.
is career oriented. If you think about, you know, maybe you haven't put out as much content in the way that you've done before, but you've put out a lot of content in a different way and have built these different ecosystems for content, right? We have this whole podcast platform, which is a whole funnel of podcasts that comes out once a week, and then all the content associated with that. And then the NFT is a different situation, which will, you know, right now it's not the best time to have an NFT project, but once the market and mainstream society gets a little bit more up to speed, it's going to be an amazing outlet for content and stuff. So I can see that, because I feel the same way with like my music. It's like I haven't put out at all. This is the worst year for content ever for me.
Yeah.
I actually didn't drop a song this year.
That's crazy, because that's your number one favorite thing to do is making music and dropping music. And I genuinely love when you're in that mindset, because you are like the most relaxed person as well, because you're not stressed about anything. But
well, because that comes down to fulfillment.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't felt fulfilled. I have in different ways, but the thing that I know that really is like, you know, my fulfillment, I just haven't, you know, gotten that. So sorry, I've been not as nice.
Yeah.
About that.
It's okay.
So anyways, 2023 is the year of content and relax girl Tiff.
And for Matt, 2023 is the year of more good music and fulfillment and gratitude. I love that for us.
Yeah. Okay, I have a good question for you.
Okay.
And this is how I think about my goals in my life in general. What is an ideal day for you? If you could have the perfect day,
oh my God,
what would it be? I want to hear it.
I love that question. I would be waking up at 9 a.m.
Okay.
I'd have my boba ready to go, and I
would it be me delivering the boba to you in bed?
Oh my God. Okay, we're talking about ideal
well, we
day.
We don't have to go crazy.
No, we're going to go crazy. Let's do this. All right, wake up 9 a.m. The curtains would be wide open, right? Because I wake up in the sun. You would be coming in around 9:30. I'd be like scrolling on Instagram, whatever I need to do for 30 minutes. You'd be coming in with the boba, some cute kisses, and a Theo that is, you know, gentle. Because now when he sits up on me, he like steps all over me, but he'd be like nice and gentle and kind of want to relax with me. I'd drink my boba and I would hang out with Theo and Zoe for a little bit, and then I would start working, and I'd already have everything done. I wouldn't need to edit because Callie would be fully editing everything for me. All I would have to do is double check things, maybe make a thumbnail. I would be posting a YouTube video that day, one Instagram, a cute little morning boba story and one TikTok that day. And then in a couple hours after getting my emails done, we'd be filming an episode of the podcast. I would love if we could do multiple episodes every single week. I think that would be so
that would be
fun.
so fucking
it's
sick.
So much work already that I can't imagine doing that. Then I would have my Indomie mee goreng noodles for lunch because it's my absolute favorite thing to eat ever. And then you and I would maybe take a walk, but I actually genuinely hate walks, so I don't know why it would be my perfect day. But we would do something active together. Either that would we would do horseback riding together, or pottery together, or walk together. Not any of the hard lifting shit that you like to do. Or I'd go by myself, do my little horseback riding lesson by myself. I'd have a great jump happen, because that's what I'm learning to do right now, is how to jump with a horse. I'd come back home, take a quick shower, then we'd have dinner together, and it would be like either a home-cooked meal or one of our favorite restaurants, and then we'd watch TV the rest of the night.
That's cute.
And I'd go to bed by like 12:30.
So I'm hearing that you want to wake up a little bit earlier and you want to figure out how to have more of your work delegated.
Yes. And also a little bit of, more active lifestyle and a more quality time with you, because right now we haven't been able to spend really good quality time together just because we have been so busy with everything else happening in our life.
Yeah.
What does your ideal day look like? And
am
I in it?
Better hope so.
I mean, I want to know which parts I'm
so
in.
my ideal day would be waking up at 8 o'clock.
Okay. I feel like you do that
meeting
already.
Andrew at the gym.
Okay.
Doing a really good workout for 50 minutes, hitting the sauna, cold plunge, whirlpool, shower, grab coffee on the way home, come home, do an overview of ROTN, make sure everything's in place, make sure all the content's going up, make sure that all the initiatives are moving forward.
Yeah.
Have meetings if they need to be had about how ROTN is being run, if it's, a meeting with the developer, if it's social strategy, if it's whatever. It would be overview, making sure everything is getting done. Ideally, it would only take an hour, and then I would shift my focus entirely into working on music for probably 2 to 3 hours. So now we're looking at me working on music from 11 till at 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then after having a studio session, I would maybe have a light lunch, or I would just stay fasted, which I like to do. And then I'd spend some time with you, get a little sexy time on, take a nap,
Okay.
get some more coffee, do something outside with the dogs, whether it be a walk, kind of reset, come back, work on music for another, even have a bigger session. So it would be 4 to 6 hours. Then it would be having dinner with you, watching a show, spending some good quality time, and then it would be playing video games or working on music again.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the night.
And what time would you go to bed?
Probably like 1 or 2.
But wake up at 8? You'd get no sleep, sir.
Yeah, I
think that's another thing you should put on your resolution: more sleep.
No, you don't. I don't think
actually,
you need.
you take your naps.
I
there is a study.
How many naps have I taken in the past 2 months?
I was saying there's actually a scientific study.
You showed me
where
this.
Women need more sleep than men. I need 8 to 9 hours, if not 10, for a day.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, I've only been getting 6 or 7. And I'm like, I can feel it. I'm like, I need sleep.
I don't think I need more than 5 hours.
I don't think that's very healthy.
I don't know.
Probably 6 or 7, I feel
I think if I get 6 to 7 is like really good.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that plus or minus your naps?
That's not including naps.
Okay.
So this is just, if I go to bed at 2, then waking up at 8 is totally perfect.
But that's probably why you crash at like 2 p.m. every day.
I think it's just naturally
even with
in
a nap
me.
or no nap. Yeah.
I think it's naturally in me because it's also an attention thing.
Yeah.
Like I can only focus so much where my brain feels like exhausted from allocating energy.
Yeah.
Because I definitely have ADD.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brain just gets tired and my whole body just like,
crashes for the day. Well, I think, maybe we should talk about what's going to happen for ROTN this year for 2023 and a little bit about the NFT market as a whole, just because I do know that NFTs were so popular at the beginning of 2022. And just to see that shift and change within 1 year, it feels like it's been a lifetime already for the entire market, where everyone was so gung-ho and now everyone's a little bit apprehensive about NFTs and crypto because of what's been happening with not only USDT and BlockFi, but also now FTX.
I can't even keep up with all of this stuff going on. It's like a really bad look for crypto in blockchain in general.
It really is. I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried really everyone over with everything that he did. And I don't know if it's because I'm gullible or what, but I remember when the initial news came out about how Alameda Research was really heavily intertwined with FTX and how they weren't supposed to be. I was like, oh, maybe Sam Bankman-Fried is just a little dumb and like didn't realize what he was doing. And when he was cooking the accounting books, he just like didn't know. And now so much more information has come out that Sam Bankman-Fried had such a heavy say and responsibility to what had actually happened with FTX. He has finally been apprehended by the U.S. government and is now in prison.
Thank God. I was so happy when that happened. I mean, he's just such a bitch. I mean, I mean, all that crypto stuff, it's just crazy to see people like Tom Brady get involved and lose all this money, or even Kevin O'Leary.
Mr. Wonderful, did you hear what he had said about the entire situation, which really got me pissed off? You know, he is not only a spokesperson for FTX, he was an investor and he was friends with Sam Bankman-Fried and he had a personal relationship with him. And when all this stuff was coming out, Kevin O'Leary was like, I don't know, I'm gonna talk to Sam Bankman-Fried because I just can't believe what's happening. What he was saying was, I truly don't believe what Sam Bankman-Fried did was wrong. He was just so looking out for his own bag and reputation, because if there's any inkling that he knew what was going on, people could sue him for his money back. So he was like saving face instead of being like what Sam Bankman-Fried did. And this was well after all the information come out. He should have been like, what he did was so wrong, and when he lost money. And do you think people who were the spokesperson for FTX, should they give their money back, or should they be sued, or should they be liable for what's happening?
I think it's tough to make a generalization, you know? It also depends their involvement and how much they knew. Yeah. I think for me, it feels more of like a moral, business ethical situation where if you knew there was shady things happening and you're out there promoting a service, then yes, I do think that the right thing to do would be give your money back. But if you had no idea and you were putting your own time, reputation, which also is a big thing, you're putting your reputation on the line, now you kind of look dumb. Yeah. You know, Tom Brady looks dumb. He probably feels terrible about it. But if he didn't know and he was just
making his bag.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of his business advisors and people were telling him this is a smart way of investing your money. This is why it's secure, X, Y, and Z. I don't think he should give his money back. He's already lost, I'm sure, so much of it. What I don't like in culture is when people come out so quickly and apologize and cut ties. As long as he's come out to make right with what he's done, I'm okay with that. But sometimes maybe you don't know the right information yet. Maybe you don't have all the facts. Maybe he wants to see what's going to happen in court and what's the actual, not only legal ramifications, but what actually went on behind the scenes for this whole situation to play out before making a public statement. But obviously this stuff is so wild that anyone from the outside could look at it and be like, yo, how are you associated with this bullshit? Once you know the information, it's pretty easy to recognize how fucked up it is. Yeah. But as a general statement, I guess I'm saying I really like Kevin O'Leary, and I think that people shouldn't be judged so quickly for one thing that they do in their life if you're looking at all the things that they're doing, you know?
I mean, I believe that to a statement, but I also believe your last action kind of dictates who you've become and who you are, right? That's why you need to make sure that everything you do in your entire life is very intentional, right? Because you can only be judged on the last action. You can't just like give out $1 million and then kill someone and be like, well, I'm a good person, right?
I think it definitely depends. And with him, you know, I don't know his involvement, so it's hard to say what he did and what he should be responsible for. I know that I listened to a clip where he's in court and he's talking about how none of his investment companies were actually legally responsible for this. And his investment in the company, $1 million, I believe, came from his own personal fund that no one else's money was tied into. And the rest of the other money was just equity they were giving him
Yeah.
in the company
I
and
know
their
he
coin
lost
and
$10
stuff.
million or something. He said he got paid 15, took out 5 and left the other 10 million into FTX.
And also on that note too, I agree it's the last action someone makes, but I also even strongly believe more in it's more important what they do after that, because I do believe in second chances. And it's taken me so long to really just have very little respect for Kanye West, because I've always looked at it and been like, okay, I see these things he's doing. I see these things he's saying, but what are his intentions? You know, it's all about what you do moving forward. And just over time, it's just gotten so bad where now I'm like, I don't know how you come back from. No, I don't at all.
No, I know that. I'm just saying no one can stick up for him. Sorry. If you do, you're like completely in the wrong, because he said some shit over and over again about the Jewish community, not just once and then and then apologize. He's kept doing it.
You know what's a huge flex? You know who Adam Ross is?
No, I do not.
He's a huge YouTuber, like live streamer. He's like really, really big in culture. Okay. He's huge. He had an interview scheduled with Kanye 2 weeks ago and he canceled it.
Aiden Ross did.
Yeah, he canceled it. Like, why? What a flex. Because Kanye said something like, I'm not going to let you and your Jewish people do X, Y, and Z. And Aiden Ross like identifies as Jewish.
Wow. What a dumb thing to say.
So he just canceled the interview. But I can't believe he's going around saying that shit. Like, that is so wild to me. He's like
doubling down on everything he said against the Jewish community after apologizing. So it's just like.
The Hitler comments. Have you, like, I've been seeing all these pulled up tweets from 5-7 years ago. You know, when news sources will do this and they'll pull up. Someone said something 7 years ago and it was, well, if you don't hop off the Kanye train now, next he's going to be saying he loves Hitler. You know?
And he did.
Like 5-7 years ago. Yeah. He said there's a lot of things I love about Hitler. I actually thought of something really interesting because you know how we talked about our goals?
Yes.
Can we get back to that?
Of course.
So I was realizing when we were sitting here and I asked that question, I think it's really interesting because when I was saying what my ideal day is, I'm really not that far off from having my perfect day. And I don't think you are. I don't really.
Gluck 3000s ain't happening every day for you. Donna, please don't watch this episode.
Why not?
We just saw her today and we were like, you can't.
No, but I'm saying why not? That definitely could happen every day.
That sounds tiring for me.
Okay, well, I'm not saying every day, right? But that, of all things, that's what you're going to comment on?
Well, I'm saying that our sex life has been like not anywhere near every day, let alone every week, because of how much we've been so busy with everything.
But regardless, I'm trying to say from more of a perspective of like, I think that is a very healthy and good exercise for people to spend this time doing and think about what does your ideal day look like? What can I do tomorrow to be closer to that day? Yeah. And I've just realized that I've naturally done that where I'm like slowly moving more and more and more towards having the life that like the perfect life for me, which is the day that I described. Being able to do that every day sounds amazing. And so I encourage people to ask themselves or do it with someone as an exercise. What is your ideal day and how close to that day are you? And maybe that's how you should be setting your goals for the year.
I definitely think, speaking it out into the world and putting it on paper and realizing, oh, like actually all these things that I want in my life are feasible and these are the things I need to do to get it is like such a healthy way to think about New Year's resolutions. Instead of just like saying it once at the beginning of the year, write it down, look at it, read it every single day and be like, I actually can totally achieve this if I put my mind to it for the entire year. And I do want to hit back on Kanye West because I wanted to start a new segment for the podcast called Am I Rotten? And I think this is the answer is
yes. You're super rotten.
So are you. I think this is a fun segment where people can submit, advice or stories or things they're going through at the moment to see if, it's kind of like, am I the asshole, but am I rotten? But we do have our first submission. You guys can email us at hello@rotten.io, or we'll have a Google link down below that you guys can submit your answers. But we got our first submission and I'm super excited about it. And I have not read it fully yet. I had Callie read it. And so, am I rotten? I need to know if I am the worst person ever and should break up with my boyfriend. My boyfriend, 25, and I, 24, recently moved in together in Austin, Texas. We were doing long distance for the last couple of years, so it has been a huge adjustment. I was fully convinced he was the man I was going to marry and was even hoping for a proposal this year. Recently, I haven't been super happy in the relationship though. I haven't been feeling the best about myself, and he does not help with that because he has made some backhanded comments about my appearance, which has made me feel really insecure. Not only that, he will also go out and complain about our sex life hasn't been great lately after making me feel like shit about myself. Recently, I've been focusing on all the bad and all the qualities that he doesn't have. Not only that, but I'm realizing how many qualities he lacks that my ex had. My ex was super funny and outgoing, and my current boyfriend never makes me laugh, never wants to go out, and does not care to make new friends, which sucks since we live in a new city and I want to make the most out of it. I worry that I'm really missing out on the fun of my young 20s. Overall, he is an awful communicator, doesn't make me feel sexy, and is just kind of boring. I know I deserve better, but the issue is we just moved into this new place and I can't afford to break the lease, and I definitely can't afford the rent on my own. Am I rotten for staying with him just because I need him to stay on the lease and pay rent?
No. You got to do what you got to.
Really?
I think so.
I think clearly she's just with him for aspects of him being able to pay rent together.
So,
but she's so unhappy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think she's not like a rotten egg, maybe a little spoiled egg.
the reason that I say no is because it sounds like these are pretty new developments as far as her view of this guy. But why did she move out with him in the first place? What are the qualities that she likes? It sounds like they need to get on the same page and communicate with each other about what they expect. You know, it's like kind of like us going through our relationship as well. It's easy to focus on the negatives and it's harder to focus on the positives, especially when things get tough.
Yeah.
But in a time like this, I think that they just need to probably speak to someone and put things out on the table and talk about, hey, I'm not feeling good about myself. These are the things that I want to do in a new city.
Yeah.
Are you willing to do those things with me? So I think there needs to be another layer of conversation before making that decision and thinking about back to the ex, because, you know, be proud that you guys moved out there together. You said that you wanted to marry him. So why would you go from that to all of a sudden thinking about your ex?
Clearly, it sounds like he has some issues if he's giving her backhanded compliments. I don't
guess
think that's healthy at all.
No. But I'm saying this is all just from her perspective. So what is she doing? Why does he feel that way? You know, there's got to be a reason.
I mean, I don't think there's any reason, you know, you should be responsible for your own reasoning, right? If I give you backhanded compliments, it can't be because my explanation can't be because, well, you do the same thing to me. Well, like, you have to like be healthy, right? So like clearly like they're not in a healthy relationship right now. She's thinking about her ex. I think that is kind of shitty that she's thinking about her ex.
Well, she's just comparing it to what she knows. You know, it's like the grass is always greener. That's the way that I'm thinking about it. But I'm not saying it's okay to make those kind of comments. I'm saying no matter what, there is no excuse to make those comments. But I'm saying those comments are being made clearly because there is underlying frustration from him as well. So I think it's healthy to look at, okay, you're frustrated. Why are you frustrated? Are you expressing it in a healthy way? The answer is no, but that still doesn't take away from the larger picture, which is they're clearly both not on the same page. So they both need to get on the same page and express their frustrations, because I bet if you asked him why he's frustrated, I'm sure he'd have maybe some good reasons. Maybe
she's the one that's staying with him purely so that she doesn't have to pay rent fully. I don't think that's healthy at all. If she's not.
No, I agree with you, but I don't think based on the way that she set up this situation that she fully doesn't want to be with him. I think
she's using the fact that she can't pay rent by herself is the reason why she doesn't want to break up with him. Because actually, yeah, you're right. Maybe she actually just doesn't want to break up with him. And it is hard that she moved into a new city. So I think she just is too scared to break up with him because of all of these other like underlying things. Like they just moved to a new city. She hasn't made any friends. She probably feels really isolated in the situation. And she can't make enough money to you know. And I don't know why they moved into a new city. Maybe it's because for her work or his work. But if it's for her work, that means she still has to stay in that new city, so she can't afford it. I feel like there's a lot of pressure for her to stay in this relationship, which is why I think she's in it.
And what I will say in my thought process is she wanted to marry him because there must be some qualities about him that she really loves. That means that they have a solid foundation in some capacity or another. Now, they're going through this stressful time, and so it's bringing out all of these new things. In the type of person I am, which I think is healthy, they have an opportunity in this moment to put all that stuff on the table and say, hey, we moved to a new city. We packed our life up. We did this very difficult thing. That is hard to do. We should be proud of what we've done. However, in this time, I have different expectations. Can we both meet each other's expectations? He might say, hey, I don't want to meet new people. I am isolated. I do feel this way. Now she knows. Now I feel that she would be pretty rotten if she stays with him after knowing exactly how he feels and the expectations are laid out.
Well, I think there are some things she wrote in this email that clearly will not change. He doesn't want to make new friends. That's not something you can change about someone. And he doesn't make her laugh. Sorry, you can't make someone funny. It's like either they're funny to you or they're not. And so I think those are two massive things that, seems like she really wants in a relationship, because she talked about how her ex had those issues or was able to give that to her. So I don't know. Yeah, I definitely think they need to have a conversation and talk about what they need in their relationship. But it sounds like she's only with him for the aspect of being able to pay the other half of rent, which
I think if that is the case, that's rotten as hell. Yeah. But I don't think that is the case. Yeah. And I think just because she brought up the funny thing and the making new friends, I think, again, she's focusing on the things that are negative, and she's not thinking about the positive things that she likes about him and the foundation they have to build on.
Yeah.
So I think in a negative time when things are stressful, you have the opportunity to make things really good, because here's the hero story. They go through this whole experience. They move out. They're all alone together. Things are tough, but they end up putting it all on the table, coming together, strengthening their relationship, finding a way to meet each other halfway. Now that they're stronger than so many other couples, because most couples die right there. Mm-hmm. But now if you're going to have kids, if you're going to do all these things, there's going to be so many hard life choices. It's all about what you do when things are in a bad place, not what you do when things are in a good place, that define a relationship.
Well, with that being said, let us know down below how rotten you think this girl is. Is she fresh? Is she,
spoiled?
Is she baked? I don't know.
I think it just needs to be like, rotten? No, I don't think fresh. I think it needs to be like spoiled.
Fresh, spoiled, rotten.
Yeah.
I say spoiled, because that's how she's even thinking about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's tough. Let us know below.
I know. Well, that was segment. So fun.
I like it.
We'll have to do more of these.
Very cool. I love this new thing.
Well, with that being said, I think this is a great episode. I mean, I hope everyone's enjoying their holidays. The New Year's are coming up. Leave us some comments down below what your New Year's resolutions are. If you think Gen Z or Millennials have it better. And how spoiled do you think this Texas couple are? I'm genuinely
Let
curious.
us know below. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes.
Make sure to like, subscribe, rate, and follow us, and stay tuned for episode 8 of the ROTN podcast.
Yes. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.